Welcome, visitors. If there are any, I don't see any visitors. At least I don't see anybody whom we do not know. So, welcome to the West Side congregation on this Lord's Day morning. As was noted before, we have placed just a general calendar out in the foyer for your taking, just to give you a general outline of some of the plans for this year. John 15 again. Want to thank those of you who came out with us on last week over to the Eastern Hills congregation. Much has been said about that occasion in a good way. Many of the brethren enjoy the time spent together in fellowship as we strive towards unity, not just human unity, but the unity of the Spirit. The word strive or endeavor actually means to fight. It's going to take work. It's going to be hard. It's going to be difficult, especially when you come into a vessel, the body of Christ, and everybody has their own personality. Everybody has their own personal interests. Everybody has their own desires. Everybody comes from different backgrounds. And so, in Paul's letter to the Ephesians, he encourages them to fight for this. You're gonna have to fight. That's why you got to be humble. That's why you got to unglorify yourself. You got to recognize that there's one Lord, that there is one faith, that there is one hope, that there is one Spirit, that there is one body, that there is one God and one Father. And you and I are only privileged to be in the body. We're not the Lord. We're not the Father. We didn't establish the hope. And since God did, and He is the one that pled for unity, says fight for what I'm fighting for. Fight. As we make our journey into John 15, now I want you to look with me at John 17. Now this text is probably going to take me roughly about 3 lessons to go through. As I was studying it, I realized how much information is packed into this section. And I hope to help you to see that in a few moments. And so today, I want to primarily deal with the background of the metaphor that Jesus uses, I am the true vine. I want to primarily deal with the background of that imagery. Not so much culturally, but I want to deal with the background from the point of Israel. Israel was oftentimes called the vine of God. Jesus, in this time, in this section, identifies himself as the true vine. And so we're going to deal with that, and I want to just make a few points for your consideration as we work through this. Still operating under our theme, back to the ancient way. If I may, in summary, say this about this section, Jesus has now realized, and we learn this in chapters 12 and chapter 13 of John. Jesus has now realized that all things has been given him, all authority will be given him, and there is a move that is made by the devil in the person of Judas. When the devil enters Judas, while they're in this feast, while they're sitting at the table in this upper room, likely on a Thursday night, about 2 days from his crucifixion. When the devil, while they're having this feast, enters Judas, Jesus then knew, my hour has come. My hour has come. Now, we're going to deal with the setting a little bit more in depth on next week. Then we're going to seek to make some application of the text the following week, Lord be willing. But I want you to notice with me in John 17, and I want you to look at verse 24, because here is the prayer. John 17 is this prayer that Jesus offers up after he has communicated to his disciples, these 11 men. I want you to kind of keep in mind that Judas is now gone. Judas is no longer with them. That's important in what we see. When we begin to start talking about the true vine, while they were eating at the table, there were 12 disciples. There were 12. Now, one of them is no longer with him. Jesus tells him, what you do, go do it, and do it quickly. That's an important detail. But because the devil is now moving in the person of Judas, and he's going to be the culprit, that in the villain that brings the authorities to Jesus for his arrest. But after Judas leaves, after he leaves, Jesus says, John 14, now the Son of Man is glorified. And that's all that. We're going to deal with the setting later. I'm giving you that, trying to at least somewhat set the scene. And what Jesus is doing, and this is something we're going to try to bring out as we go through this, man, Jesus is teaching some very hard lessons. Now, I know that when you start looking at this section, he keeps telling them, I'm about to leave. Now, what I do know, we're going to see this in just a second, I'm going to show it to you. What I do know is because of his physical presence, the disciples are protected. All of the attacks he receives. Now, that's important also within this. Every attack, all the malignant behavior, guess who receives all of that? Guess who all of that is directed at? It's directed at him. But he tells them, I'm about to leave now. But don't think for a moment the servant is above his master. If they hated me, they're going to hate you also. That's in chapter 15. All of this is within this final conversation when Jesus knows he's about to be betrayed by one. That's interesting. I give you this. I'm just kind of laying some things out. Judas was eating at the table with them. And nobody knew but Judas and Jesus that he was evil. Jesus is having a meal, and there is an assembly, and nobody knows that there was an evil man in church except Jesus and the one that's evil. That's important. We're not going to develop that today, though. I just want to give you that. But all this is going on. But I want you to think about it. All the disciples, nobody knows that an evil man is sitting in church. And he doesn't have a good agenda. He's a thief and a murderer. Nobody knows it but him and Jesus. Everybody else think he good. Man, you in church, you good. Right? And so all this is going on. And so he leaves. And Jesus began to teach the 11. Once the evil one is gone, he starts to, this is chapter 15, he starts to teach the good ones, the good branches, the nature of their ministry, and also the difficulty of it. But in John 17, I want you to see this. This kind of, for me, it kind of stirs my spirit even as I listen to it. Because in Jesus' prayer, he says in John 17:24, listen to his words. Father, I desire that they also, whom you have given me, be with me where I am, so that they may see my glory, which you have given me. Now, you got to let that sit in your heart. Jesus knows the difficulty of what they're about to face. Go back to chapter 16, verses 1. Watch this. Watch this. 16:1. These things I have spoken to you, so that you may be kept from stumbling. He says, listen, they will make you outcasts from the synagogue. But an hour is coming for everyone who kills you to think that he is offering service to God. Y'all see that? What are you telling them, Jesus? I'm telling my disciples, I'm leaving. Now watch what he said. We'll come back. These things they will do because they have not known the Father or me. But these things I have spoken to you, so that when the hour comes, you may remember that I told you them. These things I did not say to you at the beginning because I was with you. In other words, I'm about to leave. But the ministry and the mission doesn't stop. All of the attacks I received in the synagogues, you're about to receive, coming at you. All of the antagonism is coming at you. All of the hate is coming at you. Why are you telling them this, Jesus? I didn't tell you this while I was with you, but now I'm leaving. And when this stuff begins to happen, you're going to recall what I said, and so your joy may be complete. He deals with this in this same chapter. In light of, after he has this discussion, he says, Father, because he knows the difficulties that they're about to face. He knows how hard it's about to get. And he's pleading with the Father to keep them safe, to preserve them, to protect them. He's gone. Father, what I want is for them to be with me in my glory. Do you not know Jesus wants you to be in heaven despite the difficulties? He prayed for you. He didn't eliminate the hardship. He substantiated it. He solidified it. He says the reason the hate is coming is because of me. You stand with me. But Father, listen to me. Listen, Father, I want them at home with me. Keep them. Protect them. Hold them. I've sanctified myself for them. You see how much he cares? Even in the midst of this difficult conversation. So we come to John 15. Now that's just some of the observations within this particular text. But let's deal with the matter at hand real quickly. In John 15, let's read. In the heart of this, he has this setting. He has this meeting. I am the true vine. We talked about this morning, that true is not necessary. It's not talking about truth here. Here's the genuine, the authentic, the dependable vine. Jesus is the dependable vine. The vine that is guaranteed to produce. And he says the Father is the vine dresser. In other words, I am the vine. This is the metaphor used. I am the vine that the Father feeds and cultivates. And all the branches that are within me that doesn't produce fruit, if there is a branch that is on the vine that's not productive, he cuts it off and throws it away. You see that? But every branch that does produce fruit, he prunes it, means he cleans it. Everybody has any perspective of what it's like to do pruning. It can be a painful process for the branch. It can be a painful process for the branch, but the branch has to go through that painful process. Let me read through this so I can get to my points. You are already clean. Now, that's important. That's important. You're already clean. I'm going to make sense out of that here in a minute. We're going to look at some background real quick. You are already clean. You're already clean. Now, it's important to know that these men here are talking to a Jews. That's important to know. Why is it important? You may find it to be insignificant, but it is important because the Jews were the original vine. We're going to make sense out of it in a minute. The Jews were the original vine. The original vine was promised restoration. But they were dirty and they needed to be clean. We're going to make sense. Just walk with me. Just be with me for just a moment. I'm going to show you this in just a second. Now, it's because this is important. Because Israel, the vine, they failed. They failed miserably. Now, I'll stop reading there, and that's good, but I'll just give you this one verse. And when he tells them, when he speaks to them about the bearing of the fruit, he tells them, this is how my Father is glorified, and this is how you prove to be my disciples. Do you know that a disciple that doesn't produce fruit is not a disciple of Christ? Whether it be individual or collective. Amen? A disciple that doesn't, an individual that doesn't produce fruit is not a disciple of Jesus. He actually says, the way my Father is glorified and you prove to be my disciples is when you bear fruit. See, there is a lot of words of encouragement within this text also. Because the Father is the husbandman, the Father takes care of the vine, and Jesus is the true vine. Both the Father and the Son has the power to make sure the branches are productive. If the branches abide within the vine and they listen to what the vineyard, or rather they listen to what the vine says. Jesus guarantees productivity here. He didn't say it was going to be easy. But he did say it was going to be certain. If you abide and you listen and you keep my commandments and you love yourself and everybody else the same way the Father loves me. That's what he says. It's right there in the text. We'll build on that later, but I want you to see that. Jesus gives a method for ministry mastery that can be productive. And the Father is glorified when individual bodies and collective bodies are productive. They produce fruit. This also is a manifestation as to whether or not you and I are a disciple. How fruitful are we? That's Jesus'. Now, do you believe what Jesus says? So, it's true vine. Let's deal with some background. Let's go with me. Let's walk through this a little bit. To Jews, he says, I am the true vine. I've said before that the Jews had been told before that the vine was going to be restored. He said that. And Jesus has that background in mind as he brings forth this imagery as he's about to face Calvary. Watch the text. Go with me to Psalm. Did I say Psalm 80? Go with me to Psalm 80. Psalm 80. Let's watch it. Let's just read a little bit. I just kind of want to inform you today. I want to inform you because all this is important because Jesus is here. Jesus came for ultimate restoration. That's what he came for. And he starts with this seed. He starts with the Jew first and then to the Greek. He's going to keep his word to them. But watch, let's read Psalm 80. Watch the text. Psalm 80, verse 1. Watch this. Oh, give ear. shepherd of Israel, you who lead Joseph like a flock, you are enthroned above the cherubim. Shine forth before Ephraim and Benjamin and Manasseh. Stir up your power. Listen to what he says, and come to save us. O God, restore us and cause your face to shine upon us, and we will be saved. Listen to the cry. Listen to the plea. I'm crying for restoration. Things are not going well right now for us, God. We are not protected right now, God. We are not productive right now, God. We are open to all the enemy forces. We are open to all the antics of the enemies. Father, where are you? Listen. That's what he's crying. The Father, Yahweh, has turned his back on them, and he's allowed the borders to be open so that they may be destroyed. What does he say? Oh Lord, verse 4, God of hosts, how long will you be angry with the prayers of your people? Listen, y'all see that? Listen, watch that text. God is angry with the prayers of his people. He's angry with the prayers of his people. Don't pray to me, he told Jeremiah 16. Stop praying to me about this people. They will not listen to me. Man. God can get to a point and he'll say, stop crying to me about him. Now that goes against everything we believe. That goes against everything we believe. Well, God always hears the prayers of the righteous, and he does. But sometimes there are those who think they're righteous who are not. You say, repeat that? Sometimes those think they're righteous and they're not. But watch him. He crying. Because they praying for protection. They praying for production. They're praying for provision, and God not giving them anything. He's not listening. No prayer is being answered. None. How many times you done prayed and God didn't hear you? You wonder, why didn't it happen? I've been praying for this. Why? God answers prayers that are in line with his will. I want to say that. He answers prayers. Now, and I've said this before, just because I say thy will be done doesn't mean I'm praying his will. I could be very much praying for my stuff I want. Let me hurry. I want to get somewhere. You have fed them, verse 5, you have fed them with the bread of tears, and you have made them to drink tears in large measure. You make us an object of contention to our neighbors, and our enemies laugh among themselves. O God of hosts, restore us and cause your face to shine upon us, and we will be saved. God, everybody laughing at us. This is not how it was supposed to be. This is not how you told us it would be. You told us, watch the next verse. You removed the vine from Egypt. You drove out the nations and you removed the vine from Egypt. There it is. You drove out the nations and planted it. You cleared the ground before it and took deep root and filled the land. The mountains were covered with its shadow, and the cedars of God with its boughs. It was sending out its branches to the sea and its shoots to the river. Why have you broken down its hedges, so that all who pass that way pick its fruit? A boar from the forest eats it away, and whatever moves in the field feeds on it. God, why in the world? We were the branch. We were the vine that you took out of Egypt and you planted in Palestine. We were that vine. Am I making any sense? We were that original vine. Now, all of this plays into John 15. I'm giving you some background. Why Jesus say, I'm the true, I am the dependable vine. I am the faithful vine. I am the trustworthy vine. That's what he's telling Jews. You've been a vine before. You that vine that came out of Egypt, but something happened to you. And something happened to you because you were not dependable. It happened to you because you were not trustworthy. It happened to you because you were not faithful. It happened to you because you were not clean. That's why it happened. Let's prove that. Let's prove that. Go with me to Isaiah 5. Go to Isaiah 5. Isaiah 5. Watch this. Isaiah 5. Listen, listen, listen. Isaiah 5. We're just walking through some background today. Bear with me. Bear with me. Now, there's a reason why Judas has to leave. At least it's seemingly implied. There's a reason why Judah has to leave, because Judas ain't clean. He's starting with a clean vine and clean branches. Judas not clean. Judas is a thief. Judas holds the bank account in his hand. Judas gets sticky fingers every now and then, John 12. He sticks his hand in the bucket and put a few nickels in his pocket. You ever stole from God? I ain't never took his money. Well, you may not have the money. It may be your time. It may be your commitment. It may be your spirit. It may be your soul. It may be your mind. It may be your body. You ever stole from God? You holding on to something too. And I know I got a whole bunch of time, but I'm giving my time to everything else but God. You think that's a thief. I'm giving my mind to TV and to television and to social media. That's what controls my mind. My face is always on a phone, but never in a book. I'm always playing games, but I'm never reading. And parents let their children do that. And that's killing their brain cells. Stealing. You're stealing God's mind, and you letting it play rather than be productive. That's stealing. Now, there's some of the application we're going to make later, but just kind of in passing. I know that wasn't popular, but it's right. But in Isaiah 5, watch this. Let me find my place. Here it is. Verse number 1. Verse number 1, it says, watch this. Let me sing now for my well-beloved, a song of my beloved concerning his vineyard. My well-beloved had a vineyard on a fertile hill. He dug it all around, removed its stones, and planted it with the choicest vine. And he built a tower in the middle of it, and also hewed out a wine vat in it. Then he expected to produce good grapes, but it produced worthless ones. Y'all see that? God took Israel out of Egypt, cleaned up Palestine for them, cleaned up the area for them, and brought them here to inhabit this fertile ground. And he brought them there for the purpose of producing good fruit. And he said, you produce worthless fruit. I believe he at least implies, not only is the fruit worthless among them, you have affected the world with the same type of fruit. The very fact that Israel are the people of God causes them to affect the world either for the good or for the bad. They were the salt and the light. Christians, you individually, we collectively, we are going to affect the world for its good or for its bad. The branches connected to the true vine. See, Israel was the vine, And they failed miserably. They failed terribly. Watch the text. You were supposed to produce good fruit, but you produced worthless fruit. Listen, listen. And now, O inhabitants of Jerusalem, men of Judah, judge between me and my vineyard. What more was there for me to do for my vineyard that I have not done? How much more could I have done? How much more crying could I have done? How much more cleaning could I have done? How much more sacrificing could I have made? What more could I have done? That's what he's asking. I expected something from you and I didn't get it. I placed you there for the purpose of positive production and I didn't get it. Watch the text. Why? When I expected to produce good grapes, did it produce worthless ones? So let me tell you what I'm going to do to my vineyard. I will remove its hedge, and it will be consumed. I will break down its wall, and it will become trampled ground. It will lay waste. It will not be pruned or hoed, but briars and thorns will come up. I will also charge the clouds to not rain on it. For the vineyard of the Lord of hosts is the house of Israel, and the men of Judah his delightful plant. Thus he looked for justice, but he got bloodshed. I looked for righteousness, but I got a cry of distress. All this vine background that Jesus brings to this discussion. Let's go somewhere else. I want you to go with me to Hosea 10. Hosea and Isaiah are contemporaries. What do you mean contemporary? They're prophesying around the same time. This is another prophet, but listen to what Hosea says in Hosea 10. Hosea is told to marry a prostitute so that he may experience the pain that God is feeling. I have an adulteress. I have a prostitute, God says, for a wife. Israel is no better than a prostitute. She's no better than a whore. She's no better than that. And Hosea, I need you to go get you one. I need you to go get you one. I need you to go get you a very promiscuous woman. She's going to have children. And they're not going to be yours. But you can't divorce her. You're going to keep her. Hard lessons. Hard lessons. See, that ain't the God we know. The God we know just pours blessings down out of heaven. We got good jobs, we got good cars, we got fat bank accounts, we got good health. That's the God we want. No, we want a genie. We don't want God. You want an I wish offerer. Amen. We want Aladdin. Rub the urn. Come out. Give my 3 wishes. But see, Aladdin don't demand you to be obedient. Aladdin obeys you. Aladdin obeys you. Aladdin does what you tell him to do. And that's why we love him. That's why we love Aladdin. But see, the Almighty say, I'm in charge. You do what I say. This ain't your world, this mine. I made it and I allowed you to live in it. You belong to me. I made you. Why you think your life is your own when you're not even responsible for having yourself here? Make sense? So Hosea and 10 says this: Israel is a luxuriant vine. He produces fruit for himself. The more his fruit, the more altars he made. The richer his land, the better he made the sacred pillars. Their heart is faithless. Now they must bear their guilt. The Lord will break down their altars and destroy their sacred pillars. Hosea and Isaiah are dealing with the same people during the same time period. God is not at all pleased with the vine he transplanted out of Egypt and placed them in the promised land. They were supposed to produce good fruit, but they produced bad fruit. And he was not happy. So he destroyed them. But there's a message of hope. Go with me to Zechariah 8. There's a message of hope. Let's go to Zechariah 8 and watch what he says. Zechariah chapter 8. I give you time to get there. It's not a place that we frequent often. If you go to Malachi and go back, you'll get there. Haggai, Zechariah, Malachi. Malachi, Zechariah, Haggai. Now watch chapter 9. We're going to read this. And I want you to, this is what we would call post-exilic. What do you mean post-exilic? These are prophecies given to Israel after they come out of Babylonian captivity. And they're waiting for the promised Messiah. He hadn't come yet, but they're waiting. They're waiting. They're waiting. These prophets keep telling them about this hope that they don't receive. What happened? So when Jesus comes on the scene, and when Jesus comes on the scene, they've been waiting for this promised Messiah for a long time. So a lot of people are hopeless, while some are still waiting. Some may be even thinking, God, you done lied because it's bad. See, the Jews were a poor people in that day. See, they come from riches to rags. They actually came from riches to rags. You know why they came from riches to rags? Because of the disobedience. So they living in poverty. They're demon-stricken. It's bad in that day. A lot of people sick. Epilepsy, legions of demons living in you, controlling your life. You got no control of yourself. You living in poverty. The Jewish religious elite are just waiting to kick you out the synagogue, and you can't get nothing from Rome. All of a sudden, you waiting on a word from God to be fulfilled. People can begin to become hopeless. It just ain't going to happen. I'm going to die before I see the Messiah. You can go to Luke 1. There was a man and a woman that stayed at the temple. They just waiting on God's promise. When is it coming? When is it coming? They never left the temple. They just waiting on God to show up. When is he coming? But God told them, I'm not going to let you die until you see him. I'm going to let you see him.